Title, speak success into your life every single day. There is a silent conversation happening inside your mind right now. A voice that speaks when the world is quiet. A whisper that decides whether you rise or remain where you are. Most people never notice it. They wake up, scroll through their phones, rush into the day, complain about their circumstances, and repeat the same patterns again and again. They think life is happening to them, but there are a rare few, the builders of empires, the architects of destiny, who discovered a powerful truth. They realized that the words spoken inside the mind become the blueprint of reality. Before the skyscraper rises into the clouds, it exists first as a drawing on paper. Before a symphony fills a concert hall, it exists first as notes in the mind of the composer. And before success becomes visible in your life, it exists first in the language of your thoughts. Success begins with what you say to yourself when nobody else is listening. Think about it. Long before the light bulb illuminated the world, a man named Thomas Edison spoke a belief into existence that most people would have laughed at. He said, in essence, there must be a way to capture light. He failed once, then again, then hundreds of times. But every time the world said, impossible, he spoke something different to himself. There is a way, I will find it. And eventually the darkness of the world gave way to light, not because the world changed first, but because a man refused to let his inner language surrender. This is the power you hold every single day. Most people wake up speaking defeat into their lives. I'm tired. Nothing ever works out for me. I'm unlucky. I'm not good enough. They repeat these phrases so often that they begin to believe them. And what you believe, you begin to create. Your mind is not a passive observer. It is a magnet. Every word you repeat becomes a command sent deep into the subconscious, and the subconscious obeys without question. If you constantly say life is difficult, your mind will search for evidence to prove it. If you say opportunity never comes your way, your mind will close the door to the opportunities already knocking. But when you speak success into your life, when you deliberately choose thoughts that strengthen your spirit, something extraordinary begins to happen. Your mind awakens, your vision sharpens, your energy changes, and suddenly the same world that looked full of obstacles begins to reveal hidden doors. The steel magnate Andrew Carnegie once started as a poor immigrant boy working in a factory. Nothing about his early life suggested wealth, but inside his mind lived a powerful declaration. He believed that one day he would command an empire of industry. To most people, that would sound like fantasy. But words repeated with belief become forces. Carnegie did not simply hope for success. He spoke it into existence. Every day he reinforced the idea that he would rise, that he would lead, that he would build something monumental. And slowly, the world began to align with the vision he had already accepted as truth. This is not magic. This is the discipline of thought. Your mind is fertile soil. Whatever you plant in it, fear or courage, doubt or belief, weakness or strength, will grow, and the harvest will eventually appear in your life. If you want to change your destiny, you must first change the language you use with yourself, because words are not just sounds, they are instructions. When you say, I can do this, your mind begins searching for solutions. When you say, I will find a way, your creativity awakens. When you say, I refuse to quit, your endurance becomes stronger than your circumstances. The great leaders of history understood this truth. When Abraham Lincoln faced defeat after defeat, in business, in politics, in personal tragedy, he could have allowed failure to define his identity. Many people would have, but Lincoln carried a quiet conviction within him that he was meant for something greater, and that conviction shaped every decision he made. Years later, he would stand at the center of one of the most defining chapters in American history, not because his path was easy, but because his belief was stronger than the storms he faced. This is why speaking success into your life every single day is not optional. If you want greatness, it is essential, because the world will constantly try to speak limitations over you. Friends might doubt your dreams. Society might tell you to be realistic. Circumstances might whisper that your ambitions are too large. But if you accept those voices as truth, you will unknowingly shrink your future. Greatness requires a different language. It requires you to become the author of your own internal dialogue. The moment you wake up in the morning, before the noise of the world reaches you, there is a small window of power, a moment where your mind is open and impressionable. Most people waste it. They reach for their phone, absorb negativity, and allow the outside world to dictate the tone of their day. But the masters of destiny do something different. They speak life into their vision. They remind themselves who they are becoming. They declare their purpose with conviction. They say things like, I am building something meaningful. I am stronger than yesterday. I will overcome every obstacle in front of me. And those words begin shaping their actions, because belief is not passive. Belief demands movement. When Henry Ford imagined the automobile transforming the world, critics said it was foolish. They insisted people would always rely on horses. But Ford had already spoken a different future into his mind. He believed that ordinary people deserved the freedom of transportation, and that belief guided his relentless work. Day after day, he repeated the same conviction, that the impossible could be engineered into reality. Eventually, the assembly line revolutionized industry, and cars filled the roads of the world. What started as a vision in one man's mind became a transformation of society. Every achievement begins this way. First a thought, then a belief, then words repeated until they become identity, and finally action fueled by unwavering conviction. Your life is following the same pattern right now. Whether you realize it or not, the words you repeat today are quietly building the world you will live in tomorrow. If your internal voice constantly reminds you of past failures, your confidence will shrink. But if your internal voice reminds you of your potential, your courage will expand. That is why the practice of speaking success into your life must become daily discipline. Not once, not occasionally, but every single day, because the mind is like a compass. Without direction, it drifts. With clear commands, it moves toward purpose. There will be moments when doubt tries to return, moments when setbacks make you question everything. But those are the moments when your inner voice matters most. When the dream of Walt Disney was rejected by banks and investors, many believed his vision of a magical kingdom was childish. But Disney had already spoken that world into his imagination. He saw families walking through a place filled with wonder. He saw characters coming to life. He saw joy where others saw risk. And he refused to silence that voice inside him. Today, millions of people walk through the gates of dreams that once existed only in the language of one man's belief. That is the power of speaking success. It transforms imagination into reality. But the most important truth is this: no one else can do it for you. The world might inspire you, books might guide you, mentors might advise you, but the conversation inside your mind, that is yours alone. And if you learn to master it, if you train yourself to speak courage instead of fear, vision instead of limitation, possibility instead of doubt, you will awaken a force within you that cannot be easily defeated. Because when a person begins speaking success into their life every single day, they begin living like success is inevitable. And when you live like success is inevitable, you start doing the things that make it real. But the moment you begin living as if success is inevitable, something powerful begins to change inside you. Your posture changes. Your decisions change. The way you see obstacles begins to transform. Because a person who truly believes in their destiny does not see difficulty the same way the average person does. They see it as training. Think about the men and women who shaped the world. They were not people who avoided struggle. They were people who understood that struggle was the forge where greatness is formed. Every towering oak tree began as a small seed buried in darkness, and before it could reach the sky, it had to push through layers of resistance in the soil. Your life follows the same law. Success is not something you stumble into by accident. It is something you grow into through belief, discipline, and daily reinforcement of your vision. And the most powerful reinforcement you possess is the voice inside your mind. That voice is either building your future or quietly destroying it. There are people walking through life right now who unknowingly sabotage themselves every single day. They wake up and repeat the same limiting phrases. I'm not lucky. I never get opportunities. I'm not talented enough. I always fail. They believe these statements are harmless expressions of frustration. But the mind does not recognize them as casual complaints. The mind recognizes them as commands. And once a command is accepted, The subconscious begins to organize behavior around it. Imagine telling a ship's captain that the destination is failure. Every adjustment he makes will slowly steer the ship in that direction. Your mind works the same way. If you constantly speak defeat, your decisions will slowly move you toward it. But the opposite is also true. When you speak success consistently, deliberately, and with conviction, your mind begins steering you toward opportunity. Suddenly you start noticing ideas that others ignore. You take actions that timid people avoid. You persist where most would quit, and over time, those small differences in behavior create enormous differences in results. This is the hidden power of self-directed thought. It is the invisible engine behind achievement. Look at the life of Thomas Edison again. People often remember the invention of the light bulb, but they forget the staggering number of failures that came before it. Thousands of experiments that did not work. Most people would have interpreted that as proof of defeat. But Edison spoke a different message to himself. He famously said he had not failed thousands of times. He had simply discovered thousands of ways that did not work. Do you understand the difference? One interpretation leads to surrender. The other leads to persistence. Both interpretations were available, but the words he chose determined the outcome. Your interpretation of events is shaping your life right now. Two people can face the same obstacle. One says, "This is proof I'm not capable." The other says, "This is part of the process." One retreats. The other grows stronger. The difference is not intelligence. It is not talent. It is language, the language of belief, and belief is strengthened through repetition. This is why you must speak success into your life every single day, because repetition programs the subconscious mind. Every morning you must remind yourself of who you are becoming, not who you used to be, not who others expect you to remain, but who you are capable of becoming. When the industrial giant Andrew Carnegie mentored young leaders, he often emphasized the power of definite purpose, a clear vision backed by unwavering belief, because a person without a clear destination drifts wherever circumstances push them. But a person with a defined purpose moves with intention, and the language they speak reflects that purpose. Instead of saying, "I hope things improve," they say, "I am building something extraordinary." Instead of saying, "Maybe one day," they say, "I am on my way." The difference seems small, but it reshapes the entire direction of life. Purpose gives your words weight. Your words give your mind direction, and direction gives your actions power. This is where discipline enters the story. Because belief without discipline fades quickly. Motivation may ignite a spark, but discipline keeps the fire burning. There will be mornings when you feel tired, days when results seem invisible, moments when doubt tries to creep back into your mind. And during those moments, you must speak success even louder. You must remind yourself that progress is often invisible before it becomes undeniable. Think about the Wright brothers, Orville Wright and Wilbur Wright, two bicycle mechanics with a dream of human flight. The world considered the idea absurd. Experts said it could never happen. Newspapers mocked their experiments. But inside their minds lived a powerful declaration: human beings will fly. They spoke that belief again and again while studying wind patterns, building prototypes, and crashing countless early machines. And finally, on a cold morning in 1903, their conviction lifted off the ground for 12 seconds that changed history forever. 12 seconds. That is all it took to prove the impossible was possible. But those 12 seconds were built on years of belief spoken into existence. Years of refusing to let doubt silence their vision. Your success will follow the same pattern. There will be a long season where you are building quietly, learning, growing, refining your abilities. During that season, results may seem small, but the language you speak during that time determines whether you keep going or stop too soon. This is why the greatest achievers guard their thoughts carefully. They understand that the mind is constantly listening. If you allow negative voices to dominate your inner dialogue, your energy will drain. But if you intentionally feed your mind with words of strength, possibility, and determination, your spirit becomes resilient. The mind becomes a fortress. And when your mind becomes strong, your actions follow. You start taking bold steps. You start embracing responsibility. You start recognizing that success is not reserved for a lucky few. It is available to those who develop the mindset strong enough to pursue it relentlessly. This realization changes everything, because once you truly accept responsibility for your internal dialogue, you stop blaming circumstances. You stop waiting for perfect conditions. You stop telling yourself stories about why things cannot change. Instead, you begin telling a new story, a story where you are the architect of your life, a story where discipline becomes your ally, a story where every challenge becomes evidence that you are moving forward. And as that story grows stronger inside your mind, something remarkable happens. Confidence begins to replace hesitation. Clarity replaces confusion. Energy replaces apathy. You begin waking up with intention instead of drifting through the day. Your mind becomes focused on creation rather than complaint. And that shift, that powerful shift in perspective, is often the moment when your life begins transforming faster than you ever imagined. Because the world responds differently to people who believe in their own vision. Doors begin opening. Allies appear. Ideas multiply. Opportunities reveal themselves. Not because luck suddenly arrived, but because your mind is now prepared to recognize them. The truth is, opportunities surround you right now. But if your internal voice is full of doubt, you will walk past them without noticing. That is why speaking success into your life is more than positive thinking. It is mental training. It is conditioning your mind to expect growth, to search for possibility, to respond to challenges with creativity instead of fear. And once this conditioning becomes habit, you will discover something extraordinary. Your confidence will no longer depend on circumstances. It will come from within, a quiet certainty that you are capable of rising higher, that you are capable of building something meaningful, that the future you imagine is not fantasy, it is a destination, and every day you move closer to it, one thought, one decision, one courageous action at a time. And when you begin moving through life with that quiet certainty, the world begins to feel different, not easier, but clearer. You start realizing that success was never reserved for a chosen few. It was always waiting for those who were willing to think differently, speak differently, and act with unwavering belief. Most people drift through their days reacting to circumstances. They allow the news, their environment, and the opinions of others to program their thinking. But the builders of destiny do something extraordinary. They program their own minds. They decide deliberately what kind of thoughts are allowed to live inside their consciousness. They refuse to become prisoners of doubt. And that decision becomes a turning point. Because the moment you take ownership of your inner dialogue, you take ownership of your future. History is filled with people who mastered this inner discipline long before the world recognized their greatness. Consider the journey of Henry Ford. Before his factories filled the world with automobiles, Ford faced ridicule and financial collapse. Investors abandoned him. Competitors dismissed him. Experts insisted that ordinary people would never afford cars. But Ford spoke a different vision into his life. He believed transportation should not belong only to the wealthy. He imagined a world where the average worker could drive his own automobile. Every day that belief shaped his action. Every day he repeated the conviction that this vision would become reality. Years passed before the world began to understand what he already knew. The assembly line changed manufacturing forever. The automobile changed society forever. And the seed of it all was belief spoken with relentless conviction. The truth is, your future is quietly forming around the thoughts you reinforce most often. Not the thoughts you have once, not the wishes you make occasionally, but the words you repeat daily with emotion and belief. Because repetition transforms ideas into identity, and identity determines behavior. If you constantly remind yourself that you are disciplined, you begin acting with discipline. If you remind yourself that you are resilient, you face challenges with strength. If you remind yourself that your life has purpose, you begin moving with direction. Identity becomes the foundation of destiny. This is why speaking success into your life must become a ritual, not a temporary experiment, not a motivational exercise you try for a few days. A daily commitment, a moment every morning where you reclaim control over the direction of your mind. Imagine waking up tomorrow and deciding that the first voice your mind hears will be your own. Not social media, not negative news, not the doubts of others. Your own voice declaring the direction of your life. You look at the day ahead and say, I am building a powerful future. I will move forward no matter what obstacles appear. I am disciplined, focused, and capable. These are not empty affirmations. They are instructions to your subconscious mind. They are seeds planted in the fertile soil of your imagination. And over time, those seeds begin to grow. Your focus sharpens. Your confidence strengthens. Your actions become aligned with the person you are declaring yourself to be. And when thoughts, words, and actions align, momentum appears. Momentum is one of the most powerful forces in life. At first, progress may feel slow, a small improvement here, a new habit there. But momentum compounds. Just as a snowball rolling down a mountain gathers size and speed, disciplined thoughts gather power through consistency. What once required effort begins to feel natural. Belief becomes automatic. Persistence becomes instinct. And eventually you reach a moment where the version of you who once doubted seems like a distant memory. The human mind is far more powerful than most people realize. It is capable of creating worlds, solving impossible problems, and transforming ordinary lives into extraordinary journeys. But it must be guided. Left alone, it drifts toward fear. Trained with intention, it moves toward greatness. The pioneers of innovation understood this deeply. When Walt Disney began imagining animated stories that could move audiences emotionally, many critics dismissed the idea as childish entertainment. But Disney had already spoken a vision into his mind, a vision of storytelling that would inspire imagination across generations. That belief drove him through financial disasters, studio failures, and constant skepticism. Yet he never allowed the language of defeat to dominate his thoughts. He spoke creativity. He spoke possibility. And slowly the world began experiencing the magic that once existed only in his imagination. Your life may not involve building theme parks or inventing revolutionary machines, but the same law applies. Every meaningful achievement begins as an idea strengthened by belief. The difference between people who realize their dreams and those who abandon them is rarely talent. It is persistence fueled by conviction. The moment you stop reinforcing your belief, the mind begins drifting toward doubt again. That is why the practice must continue every day. Every sunrise is an opportunity to reinforce your identity. Every challenge is an opportunity to prove your resilience. Every failure is an opportunity to strengthen your determination. Because failure, when interpreted correctly, is not the opposite of success. It is a step toward mastery. The great leaders of history did not avoid mistakes. They learned from them. They adjusted. They evolved. And through every setback, they continued speaking the same message to themselves, keep moving forward. That message becomes powerful when it is repeated with emotion. Emotion is the amplifier of belief. Words spoken without emotion fade quickly, but words spoken with conviction sink deep into the subconscious. When you declare your vision with intensity, your mind begins to treat it as reality. Your imagination becomes vivid. Your goals become tangible. Your determination becomes unstoppable. This is why great speeches move people to action. It is not the words alone. It is the emotional force behind them. And the most important speech you will ever hear is the one you give yourself every day, because that speech shapes the way you see your life. It determines whether you shrink in the face of difficulty or rise above it. It determines whether you settle for comfort or pursue greatness. The world is filled with people who once had dreams, but allowed doubt to silence them. They told themselves it was too risky, too late, too difficult. And over time, their ambition slowly faded into quiet regret. But you do not have to follow that path. You can choose a different voice, a stronger voice, a voice that refuses to accept limitations as permanent, a voice that reminds you that human potential has no fixed boundaries. Every invention that changed history was once considered impossible. Every empire that shaped civilization began with an idea. Every transformation started with someone daring to believe in a future others could not yet see. And that same power exists within you, right now waiting to be awakened, waiting for you to speak the words that ignite it. Because the truth is simple but profound. Your life moves in the direction of your dominant thoughts. If your thoughts are filled with doubt, your world will shrink. But if your thoughts are filled with possibility, your world will expand. The choice is made every single day, and every moment you decide what language will define your mindset. You can speak fear, or you can speak courage, you can speak limitation, or you can speak vision, you can speak failure, or you can speak success. And the moment you choose success, truly choose it, something powerful begins to unfold inside you. Your mind aligns with your purpose. Your actions align with your vision. And step by step, day by day, word by word, you begin building the life you once only imagined.